right, welcome to this closing finale final thoughts presentation on this 10-week progression that you just completed. This is your host, Paul C. Tuina, nutritional therapist, superhuman life coach, and I am just so unbelievably thankful that you decided to join us on this journey that is never going to end, but definitely very excited that you were able to join us for this 10-week progression because all this information has been put together from the heart and with the intention to help and to heal and to put us on a different path. And I know that if you're there watching this video right now that you understand that and you feel that. And I'm just so thankful and blessed to be a part of this entire thing. And, if you didn't know this already, you still freaking rock. Like, you really do. Because, I fail to remember sometimes that I've had years to experiment with this information and to mess with this, and you would expect someone in my position that's been doing this long to be relatively perfect with everything. And then here I am, and I put this information out to you in a 10-week program, and you give it your all, and you do the best you can with it, and I just think that's awesome, and that's so commendable, and I'm really proud of you. And it doesn't matter, how many meetings you attended, how diligent you were with the progressions. Better is better. You did the best that you could. And if you took away just one thing that changed your life going forward, then that's a big win. And you've got a lifetime of support from us and everybody else, so this journey is never going to be over, and we're just super thankful and super excited that you're here with us. And remember what this is all about. This is about freedom. This is about taking your life back. This is about longevity, quality of life, feeling good, feeling amazing, and understanding that, when it comes to most people out there, when we were younger, we dreamt all the time. We had all these aspirations about becoming certain things, and the possibilities were unlimited. And I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, a really good friend of mine that's been through, all my stuff ever since I started putting this stuff together. And he was like, T, it's, what's crazy is things are just different now. My entire life is different. Move beyond the physiological things that we're looking to change and the body composition, all that stuff. The way that we look at things, the way that we interact with life, because the way that we feel, that is priceless. And that's exactly what we want for people. Remember our original vision statement, mission statement. We want to bring freedom to people all over the world, and the freedom that comes from understanding these foundational principles, because once you have these foundational principles in place, you can dream again. Your life is completely different. And looking out there at most other people, I think most of us would agree that most people are completely clueless when it comes to how to be truly healthy. Today we have more technology than ever before. We have more information and more access to information. We have more drugs, more ways to diagnose. And yet as a nation, even as a species worldwide, most humans are completely lost when it comes to how to be truly healthy. But we're not. We're different. We're awake. We're in the know. We understand that being healthy is not just about what foods to eat. And by the way, our definition of what foods is completely different from what other people recommend. But it's also about learning how to eat those foods, when to eat those foods, how to get in touch with your body in a way that tells you which foods feel the best and which times are best for which foods. But it's also about crucial lifestyle factors that are synergistic with our way of eating, such as hydration, sun exposure, sleep patterns, setting your circadian rhythms, and being in touch with the earth. And of course, one of my favorites and one of the most profound is meditation and mindfulness practices. So understand, we always focus on what we want. We're pro-health. We're not anti-disease. So health should not be seen as the absence of disease, but it's the process, the journey of growing stronger and more energetic and more vibrant and happier than we were before. And that is the purpose of this superhuman transformation. You have figured out real food for life. You now understand how to make yourself feel good again, understanding that we're all, never perfect with all this information, but you understand what you need to do. And now you have a chance to dream again and to change your life. This is a crucial matter. This is such a great, powerful thing. It's what we want for everyone. And I want you to acknowledge and accept this freaking gift for what it is. It's a gift. It really is. Most people search their entire life for this information and never get it figured out. So regardless of the changes that you saw or didn't see, this is a gift. Cherish it, appreciate it, and understand that your work is never done. And the great thing is that you have a community to support you going forward. We all now have a new default, and that default is the things that we've learned that we can't unlearn. And now our goal should be to share that default with other people, and that's what we call empowering the planet. It is a cheesy vision that I came up with years ago, and we really see this coming to fruition now. You know why it's coming to fruition? Because I envision it every single day. And then the people that I work with, our ambassadors and some of our closer cohorts, they envision that too. And this is really happening. It's coming together. And a big part of it's because of you. So we have some forms that we've attached. And if you weren't at some of the final meetings, then you can print these forms out and complete them and give them to us at your convenience. If you remember from one of our second to last meetings, we had a write-up to commemorate your journey. And so basically this sheet is a way for you to communicate your experience of going through this progression to other people. You may not want to share this with anyone. You may not give us permission to share this written testimony. That's great and that's fine. But I still think it's a very beneficial exercise to go through and commemorate it for yourself so that you have this for your personal information. And then, of course, we'd love to use this information if you'd be willing to let us share it. So, and then also, all of us know people that are struggling with this stuff. All of us know people that have some kind of a health issue, some kind of a medical condition, that just feel like crap, have digestive issues, low energy levels. I mean, you name it, all the things that we were experiencing when we came into this. And, we want to share that with as many people as possible. We really do. And the best way to do that is to get them plugged into this information. We can't, I don't think it's our job to necessarily sell everyone on the 10-week program because there's all kinds of different services that we can offer. But what we can do is get them plugged into our network and our newsletter so that they can come to one of our information meetings or maybe one of our seminars, and they can make up the decision for themselves about whether this feels right for them or not. So if you've got friends or family members that you'd like for us to reach out to, or if you know business owners that are looking for a corporate wellness program, or maybe some heads of some organizations or associations that have access to a lot of people, one way that you can help us empower others is just by giving us some contact information, and we'll just send out a very non-intrusive email and introduce ourselves and invite these people to our next information meetings or maybe some of our future seminars or something like that. So if you've got some information like that, we'd love that. We'd love to reach out to those people and bring them into our family. Also, one of the handouts that you have is a quick checkbox survey. So we have a form that's a front and back form. And if you're receiving this as a PDF attachment, it's a 2-page document. And this is something that we want you to turn in. And so the first page of this, and you can keep this anonymous if you want, so you don't have to put your name on it. It's basically a checkbox survey, pretty self-explanatory. Just go through and answer these questions. On the back of that page, or on the second page, we have some opportunities for you to give us feedback on this progression and how we can make this better. So understand, when we started this several years ago, like our first iterations of this were so basic and so simple. The guide was like a quarter the size that it is now. Like everything was different. And the reason that we've evolved and made things better is because we watch and we try to anticipate what people need, and we get feedback just from being a part of these groups. But then also we actually get concrete feedback from people, constructive criticism, things that worked and things that didn't work and things that we want to see different and change and better. And so we welcome this information. So we have a document here where you can give us some feedback. The first one is on meeting durations. Now, our goal is to empower you with education. There's a lot of thought that goes into what goes into these meetings and what we pull out of it. I mean, I could talk for 3, 4, 5 hours on each one of these things. So, but that being said, like how was the meeting durations? Were they too short, just right, too long? I think they averaged about an hour and a half most times, even though we said we try to keep them to an hour. What are your thoughts and feedback on the meeting durations? And then on emails and videos between meetings. So again, a couple of years ago, we had meetings, and then we had the Facebook group, and then we had meetings, and that was it. And so I figured, at some point down the road that it would be way more beneficial to have some kind of interaction in between the meetings, like little mini challenges, little videos, little motivational boosts, little in-between SOs that would recap the concepts that we covered in the meeting. And I understand that this is a lot of information. There's a lot of emails that go out. Not everybody watches all of them, and not everybody resonates with the little short videos. But again, that being said, we feel like it's beneficial. It's better to have it there than not have it there. But how did you experience it? What was your experience like? Was it helpful, not helpful? Did you love them? Was there too many? You can check multiple boxes here and also give us some feedback on that. On the homework and documentaries, these videos have been chosen to help reinforce what we learn and also give you some new information. I've watched every single documentary that's existing out there probably, but these are the ones that we felt like were the most powerful. Some people think they're maybe a little bit outdated, but I just haven't found anything that hits home like these things do. But again, that being said, Was it enough? Did you need more? Did you love them? Was there too much, too many? Was it too much to keep up with? Or would you like some different ones or something like that? Give us some feedback on that. The priming process and meditation, in my opinion, are the most powerful and profound things that you can work on, because for most of us, I think we get and understand the basic, simple, foundational concepts of food and sleep and all these other things. So this is where the deepest work happens, but I also understand it's one of the more difficult and challenging, and there's a lot of reasons for that. So what feedback can you give us on this? And again, you can check multiple boxes here and let us know, which things feel right and which things didn't, and then maybe just give us some feedback on the process, because this is one of the things I really want people to tap into and try to hone over the long term. And then finally, what additional feedback can you give us to make this better for future superhumans? So if you could turn that document in, it's a 2-page document, that would be amazing. And again, you can keep it anonymous. You can give us your name if you'd like to. It doesn't matter. All right, then we have another 2-page document, and this is our Empower the Planet document. So these are some best practices that you can do to implement now that you can have an impact on others. My goal with this 10-week program is to empower you for a lifetime. And the pricing of this has changed. The structure of it has changed over time. I think that whatever the pricing is and whatever it becomes in the future, it is a very small investment for the principles that you receive that you can use for an entire lifetime. And again, we may not be perfect with this information, but once we get it, we have it for a lifetime. And this is stuff that people search for a lifetime. The only thing that we ask for that would be beneficial to us to help us empower others is to get a rating and or a review on different social media outlets. And only do this if it feels right to you and it resonates with you. I mean, if you're not one of these people that feels like, this is something that you need to do, then that's perfectly fine. We definitely want this to be heartfelt, but I know that most people would benefit from some kind of a nudge with this information. And so I can't tell you how many people come to us from social media and from web searches, and it's beneficial to understand how some of this stuff works. So you can go to any one of these platforms, and if you don't feel like doing any kind of heartfelt written up, it doesn't have to be a perfect testimonial. A lot of people, they put it off because they want it to be worded perfect, or they feel like they have to say certain things or something along those lines. Even if you just go in and leave a star rating, that would be beneficial. But also, if you want to leave something that's heartfelt, or maybe you want to use the write-up that you did with that previous document, or some summary version of that would be awesome too. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. Facebook is amazing. We have a ton of people come to our Facebook page, and if you go there and see the reviews, we have, I don't know, like 60 to 100 of them right now, and they're all just awesome and heartfelt and amazing. Some of them are just star reviews, some of them aren't. Facebook is what it is. A lot of people do come up to us through the Facebook page, and the Facebook page is facebook.com/Paul C. Torina. This is my professional page. It's my LLC page. It's not my personal profile. So if you do Facebook and you could leave a star rating and or a review there, that would be awesome. And then also understanding Google Plus and Yelp. So Google Plus is a business page platform that Google uses and that web searches use. So if I search for holistic nutritionist on the internet, what's going to pull up is star ratings associated with my Google review. So on the right-hand side there, you'll see the Paul C. Torina 10 Google reviews. That's a web-based search. Or if I'm using an Android system like a Samsung phone or something like that, and I search for a business on that map platform or on Google Chrome on that phone, then the businesses that pull up and the star reviews are Google reviews. So the Google reviews are going to be very beneficial for either non-iPhone platforms, or if you're doing a web search for something, nutrition related or something. Now Yelp is what it is. Yelp is a rating review service. It's awesome. It's very powerful. Some people use Yelp and some people don't. But what's interesting is when I'm on my iPhone and I use the maps on my iPhone and I search for a business in that map program, then the businesses and the reviews that pull up in that map program are Yelp reviews as opposed to Google reviews. And so my point with this is that we need ratings and reviews on all these different platforms because different people use different things at different times. So if you do Facebook, we'd love to have a star rating. If you want to add a review with it, that'd be awesome. If you have a Gmail account, all you have to do is log into your Gmail account on your computer and then go over to our business page, which is plus.google.com/plus Paul C. Torina, or you can just search for Paul C. Torina in the Google Plus platform. And then you can just use your same star rating and then copy and paste your review. And that's if you have a Gmail account. And if you do Yelp, then we would love to have a Yelp review. And these things, again, it's the only thing that we really ask for going forward, because you're going to see you have a lifetime of support. You have the community for life. You have all kinds of different things you have access to. You've been empowered with information that will serve you for a lifetime. But the best thing that you can do to support us is to do rating and review on these different platforms. Also extremely beneficial would be checking in while visiting us or meeting or purchasing something or getting a product. You can check in on Facebook, Google+, and Yelp. And again, using our business pages. We'd love to see that. We'd love to see you use hashtags and post on your personal profile. And if you need to pitch this to someone else, we have a little elevator pitch at the bottom of that page. Okay. Thank you so much in advance for taking time to do this, because it's really one of the things that benefits us the most. So and understand that when you put a star rating and review down, if you have the intention to empower others, that's exactly what that's going to do. Someone is going to come to that page or come to that website or come to that review, and that could make or break their attitude towards this whole thing and whether they participate or not. And I think that's a great way to empower others in a very non-intrusive and passive way. On the back side of that page, we have just a closing thoughts thank you letter. So if you could please read that, it's from the heart. And we care about you and love you so much. So let's talk about continuing this SHT stuff going forward. We did talk about in our second to last meeting some of these food concepts. We have the 5 food groups. That's our definition of real food, and that's our definition of real food for life. Like, you never have to question what real food is again. Now, within that definition of real food, you got to question, what's beneficial for you. But in general, we know what real food is. We have our ideal days meals. This is how you structure your real food on a daily basis, and this is something that you will use for the rest of your life. Never start your day off with sugar or starch or glucose, because it will completely change the tone and the texture of the whole day. And just understand that our concept of self-sufficiency is unique to us. All right, I would, going forward, always think, how can I maximize self-sufficiency? And you could equate the term self-sufficiency with fat burning. How can I maximize fat burning throughout the day? And again, ideal days meals is the thing that kicks it off. Nurturing natural space in between meals, training on an empty stomach, just understanding that as soon as I start to have starch or glucose sometime in the day, I kind of disrupt my fat burning capacity. And so I want to push that sugar and starch signal as late in the day as possible. And if I go into a training session on an empty stomach, that's going to be really powerful and beneficial, and all these other things that we learned. So self-sufficiency is something that you need to keep in the back of your mind on an ongoing basis when it comes to food. Low carb cleanse, for most of us, we all used it as a way to kind of reset ourselves going forward. I think that 5 food groups, ideal days meals is beneficial over the long term for sure, but I don't think it's enough for people to see significant change over the long term. So you need to cycle yourself through things like the low carb cleanse. Low carb cleanse, for many of us, if we go off and we have an overindulgent night or overindulgent weekend, we can use the low carb cleanse for 2 or 3 days or 5 days or something along those lines, and then we feel completely reset and lean and clean, and it's awesome. Eating with awareness and self-testing. I think we all should be pretty much in tune with ourselves and understand when we eat something and when we feel off, even if it's in the real food realm, and that's a really, really powerful tool to use going forward. Strategic fasting, I would use on a regular basis. I would incorporate intermittent fasting a couple days a week and make sure that you're committing to a 24-hour, 36-hour fast periodically, at least once a month. All our different lifestyle concepts, setting circadian rhythms, using bright outdoor natural light exposure during the day, making sure all your stimulus is minimized at night, taking some time to be grounded every day, touching the earth, understanding there's physiological, measurable benefits that come from that, but that also it's just a beautiful thing to be a part of. And then the superhuman priming process is just, it's profound, like it really is. And whatever you need to do to mess with that and move towards that, is going to be beneficial for you, and just let me know if we can support you in any way. So one of the documents we have, a 2-page document. This is for your own future reference, and what we envision this as being something that you put up on your refrigerator as a reminder, because a lot of us will go through this 10-week progression, and then after the 10 weeks is over, kind of feel a little bit lost, a little bit disconnected, and we start to drift away, and maybe we move towards some habits that aren't beneficial. And we all go through some ups and downs with all this stuff, and I'm not saying this is all of us, but some of us will go through this. And I just think it's beneficial to have this up on the fridge, So one day you may be walking by this and just decide to look over it and like, oh, okay, this is a reminder what the 5 food groups are. And then also some of our main principles there on the right-hand side. So making sure that you begin every day with water, claim your morning. We'd recommend using the priming process, but whatever makes sense for you, just make sure that you sit down every morning and think about what you want for your life and for your day. Make sure that you start every morning with meat and fat, optional low-starch vegetables, but you definitely want to eliminate that sugar signal in the morning and be strategic with your carb consumption. Make sure that you minimize snacking and focus on the space. And then also always train on an empty stomach and set your circadian rhythms. And because we envision this being up on your fridge, then we have a little plug for our contact information there down at the bottom. So, all right. So make a note to yourself right now to make sure that you put this up on your fridge so that you see this somewhere so that you're reminded of these principles on a regular basis. And then on the back of that page or the second page of that document is our rotational calendar. So this is a great way for you to continue to move forward with all our different principles, cycle through our different phases. If you join one of our advanced programs, we typically help guide you through that process and have our own goals. But if you're on your own, then this is a great way to kind of structure your rotating through these different phases. So again, we have at the top left there reiteration of some of our basic foundational principles, and at the bottom left, things to schedule. So just make sure that you fight tooth and nail to always stay 5 food groups, ideal days meals. If you just do that at a minimum going forward, you're going to be doing a heck of a lot for your health, longevity, quality of life, and everything else. But then you also want to make sure that you're incorporating intermittent fasting on a regular basis. So in this document I have on the calendar, a couple days a week, maybe like a Monday, Thursday, you can mix that up and do it however you want. At the max, I would recommend doing intermittent fasting every other day. So at the max, you'd have maybe 3 or 4 days of that a week. And then also making sure that you schedule in a 24-hour fast and a 36-hour fast at least once a month. I'd recommend doing a 24-hour fast every other week, and then once a month do attempt a 36-hour fast. And then you also want to make sure that you're cycling through all our different phases. So I would do low-carb cleanse for at least 1 week every month. And the way that I'd recommend doing it, if you're not in one of the advanced programs, is at the first of the month. Every time the first of the month rolls around, let that be your indication or your cue to start a low-carb cleanse for a week, for a solid week. No cheat nights or anything. Just be low-carb cleanse for a solid week. It's only a week. During the program, we did it for 2 weeks and had a cheat night, and that was a little, I think, challenging for most people, but I think everyone can commit to a low-carb cleanse for a week. So first of the month rolls around, low-carb cleanse for a week, and then after you do that low-carb cleanse, you always want to reintroduce foods very methodically like we did during the progression, because your body is going to go through changes in the future, and what you do well on now, you may not do well in the future. And things that you didn't do well on now, you may be okay with in the future because your digestion is going to strengthen, your body's going to go through some changes. And I can tell you, I do different on different starches now, I do different on different dairy products now, and I'm continually evolving and changing and adapting. All right, so after that week of low-carb cleanse, you want to go through a week of reintroducing safe starches. Now, since you only have a week, you don't have the ability to do 3 days for white rice, 3 days for white potatoes, 3 days for sweet potatoes. But you can reintroduce each one for a day or two, so maybe white rice for a couple of days, sweet potatoes for a couple of days, white potatoes for a couple of days, and just pay attention to how you feel. You don't have to do the full pulse testing, although that would be beneficial, but just pay attention to how you feel. And after a week of methodically, with awareness, reintroducing safe starches, then you can bring back in dairy products. And the same thing, I would do 1 new dairy product per day. So whatever your favorite heavy cream is, do that for a day, pay attention to how you feel. And then reintroduce your cheeses, reintroduce your sour cream and your yogurts, and be super, super methodical about that. That should leave you with about 2 to 3 weeks every month of just the entire 5 food groups and ideal days meals, because by the time you start to reintroduce and test for dairy, that is bringing in the rest of the stuff. So you have a good solid 2 to 3 weeks every month that you're pretty much, no holds barred, and you can eat anything you want, just abiding by our basic rules. And then I would recommend at the end of every quarter go through what would look like a detox protocol. Now, if you follow non-modernized healthy populations, none of them typically had what looked like a dedicated detox program, although they would go through periods of fasting and with and without, and maybe they'd cycle through a detox protocol but not knowing that was what it was because things were just really scarce, But we can take some information from what we know from science and how the body works and from some experience and put together what looks like a detox protocol, but it's not, just like our entire foundational principles, this is not what you would expect from a detox protocol. So this is not a juicing protocol. It's not even really a completely vegan protocol. So we have a dedicated detox program called the Strategic Detox, and I'd recommend each and every one of you attend that meeting and that class because it's really powerful. And just like everything else, you'll walk away with it with a detox program that you can use for the rest of your life. But if you haven't been through that program and you're due for a couple of weeks detox, then I would just say something that looks kind of low carb cleanse-ish, erring on the side of being more plant matter than anything else to be a little bit more cleansing, and just experiment with something like that. But I'd definitely attend our detox class to get that put together. All right, so if you're on your own, this rotational calendar is super solid, super proven. It's what I use if I'm not in one of the advanced programs or kind of guiding people through that. And so if you have any questions, just let us know, but it's awesome. And understand, like, you've always got the, all the stuff that we've put together for a lifetime. You've got our headquarters, our main office. You've got me for a lifetime. All right. I'm always here. I'm always available. All you have to do is reach out to me in a text message or an email or stop by my office or make an appointment. You have the Superhumans United Facebook group for life. And if you don't do Facebook, that's fine. But if you're in Facebook, like, it's a great, great, great resource. You don't even have to participate in it. You can just watch what's going on. And then you have our community for life. So we're always going to be doing events. We're always going to have new progressions going. We're always going to have dinners and potlucks and get-togethers and hikes and things like that. And I would highly encourage you to participate in as much of that stuff as you can. And even if you don't feel like you've been on with things, like a lot of people I think feel guilty because they kind of drift away from some of these principles, and that's perfectly fine. Still make a point to come to these events because it will rekindle your desire and your motivation to be better, and you'll be around people that agree on these same principles, So going forward, we also have some advanced programs. So I mentioned the Strategic Detox. I'd say that's something that everyone needs to attend. It's $25. The pricing may change depending on when you watch this, but $25 per person, per superhuman, and it's a program you'll use for the rest of your life. We have a dedicated Facebook group for it. We'll do a 2-week detox together, and it's really awesome. Biohacking, the SHT biohacking program is a program where we get into ketosis, measuring ketosis, determining optimal macronutrient ratios, total caloric intake, and things like that. And so I'd highly recommend that you participate in that. Pricing on that's going to change, but we always have a presentation that's dedicated towards pitching those things. And then also the Ambassadors, the cream of the crop. I mean, these people, we meet once a month. We have reading assignments. We have our own personal goals. And it's just really, really an awesome program. So, all right. So, participating in all of our different things going forward, I think is going to be the winning recipe for success. You can do a lot on your own, but you need other people and you need support. So just make sure that you're paying attention to that stuff and you try to join us for as much as you can. All right, so let's talk real quick about fat loss strategizing, because I know this is something near and dear to a lot of people, and we can talk about a few things in the context of doing what we know how to do. And I want you to understand, looking at some of these little pictures here, like, this is not normal. Most people have been brainwashed for their entire life to think that they need to look a certain way. I get so sick of hearing people say that they need a six-pack abs and they want this kind of butt and they want these kind of legs. And I'm not saying that it's not beneficial or healthy to have certain goals and aspirations, but what I think is optimal is for you to have this attitude that if I feed my body right and I move functionally, and I have my sleep patterns improved, and I have meditation in place and all these other things, then I just need to trust my body to do what it's going to do. And maybe my idea of what I want my body to look like and my body's idea of what it needs to look like when I do all these right things is going to be completely different, because my perception of that is going to be completely skewed by what I've learned and what I've been brainwashed for my entire life, right? So the image of these people up here is not the norm. Like, it's not what most people are going to move to when they do the right thing. And I always say it all the time, like, I joke about it. Like, if me and Colby sit there and we take our shirts off next to each other, he looks like Captain America, I look like a gorilla. And, Colby's one of our biggest supporters and advocates. And by the way, if you don't know who Colby is, he's the head coach and owner of the CrossFit Combine, where a lot of us do CrossFit. But he's one of our biggest advocates and abides by our principles. But I'd say I'm probably more spot on with this stuff than him. But my body just chose to move in a different direction. I'm perfectly happy with that. I could fight to get myself into a six-pack ab situation, but it's not healthy for me, because it's a bigger stress on my body than just letting things happen naturally. So just understand that where you want to go towards and what your body wants to move towards may be two different things. Also, if you're eating 5 food groups, ideal days meals, and you're cycling through all the different things that we just talked about using the rotational calendar, and you're incorporating strategic fasting, including intermittent fasting and 24 and 36-hour fast, that is all you need over the long term, right? Sometimes it just takes time. That's all there is to it. We've got a ton of people that, they go through this 10-week progression, and just from day one is the best thing to ever happen to them. They lose weight, feel great, but those are the exception to the rule. Then we have some people that do see some change, but they still want to continue to see some change. Then we have some people that don't see any change at all during the first 10 weeks. But then if you check in with them 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, like they've gone through just some unbelievable transformations. And that's because sometimes it just takes time. So be patient with yourself, practice some love and kindness to yourself. But then there's also some other things we can talk about and consider, all right? So portions, I think, are one of the biggest issues that we have for most people, because we get into this way of eating, and ideally, this way of eating is going to be auto-regulating, because you're getting nutrients sufficient, you're training your body how to burn fat for fuel, and all these things tend to take care of themselves for most people. But if you're having a ton of bacon at every single meal, and you're just eating like there's no tomorrow, and you're not really paying attention to portions and things, then there could be some room for pulling back on that stuff. With starches and safe starches in general, I would say that most people are going to do better with a lower carbish approach, but not being low carb. I think low carb is going to be damaging for most people over the long term, but that doesn't mean that you have to have a massive amount of safe starches. You can have just a little bit every night, half a fistful or less, and I think most people are going to feel really good on that and do really well on that. You can experiment with pulling back on portions of lipids or portions of fats. I haven't seen that work for many people. Actually, I haven't seen that work for anyone, because I'm a true believer that the presence of fat in the diet is going to give the body more of a signal of what it wants to use for an energy source. So the more that you can have that signal in the diet, the better. But if you want to experiment with it, some people just kind of feel uncomfortable with having a lot of fat in their diet, or for whatever reason don't feel good. You can pull it back on the amounts and just make sure that you keep those things in there for the nutrients. Something else to consider is going to be paying attention to your total caloric intake. Now, over the long term, because these things auto-regulate themselves, we are not fans of being neurotic about food and weighing and measuring. But it might be beneficial if you're trying to nitpick your body composition. And I should preface all this with, all this stuff about, strategizing for fat loss. If you care about this, like, I think most people are going to benefit from just doing the deal and not worrying about this stuff too much. But if you want to be neurotic about this just a little bit, then I would say it would be beneficial to understand what your total caloric intake is. Because again, if I'm over consuming calories, even if I'm doing it the right way, then that's going to be a problem for my body and my body composition. So a program that we're big fans of is this program called Chronometer. We use it in the biohacking program, and you can weigh in. I prefer this over things like MyFitnessPal, and you can weigh and measure for a few days just to see what your total caloric intake is. You can see here one of my average days. I've got about 1,800 total calories, and I'd say shooting to be between 1,600 and maybe 2,200 or 2,000 at the max would be what you'd be looking for. And if you're having 2,500 to 3,000 calories in a day, that could be your big body composition problem right there. All right, so I don't want you to take away from this that this is something that everybody needs to do, but it would be interesting if you're really struggling with the body composition piece to see where you're at on a total caloric consumption standpoint. All right, and then some other things to experiment with would be cycling through some different phases. So again, 5 food groups, ideal days meals is going to be your general approach going forward. It would be interesting to do an experiment and see how you functioned on a lower carb, high fat, moderate protein approach. And I would say give that 2 to 4 weeks. And what that means is lower carb means staying lower carbish, staying under that half fistful of safe starches a day. High fat would mean increasing your fat intake, like exaggerating your fat intake. So whatever it is that you're doing right now, like consciously add more fat, while at the same time pulling back on your protein. So, and whatever your protein consumption is right now, your meat consumption, I would half that, So if you're having 3 eggs and 2 pieces of bacon in the morning, that would mean that you'd have 1 or 2 eggs, maybe 1 egg and 1 piece of bacon, and then increase your fat. Now, the purpose of this phase would be to push yourself into a fat-burning state. It would be something that looks a little bit more ketogenic, which is basically fat burning, and just see how you function on that. And you really got to give it a solid 2 to 4 weeks to see if you have any impact on that. The next phase that I would experiment with would be a lower carb, high protein, moderate fat diet. So that would be for people that function better on a higher meat consumption way of eating. And I see a lot of people that see some benefits out of this, because meat is going to be the most satiating of the macronutrients, meaning that if I eat a ton of meat, like I just don't have an appetite for anything else. So it starts to auto-regulate a lot of things for us. And so the way to do that would be to stay, again, lower carb-ish, half a fistful of safe starches per day, and then increase your protein. Make the majority of your meals protein, pull back on your fat amounts. Don't completely eliminate it, but pull back on your fat amounts, and you can still have some vegetables in there, but just make them minimal, and see how you function on a higher protein diet. All right, then the final thing to experiment with, what would be look like a little bit of a vegan or a vegetarianish approach. So lower carb, higher plant matter, moderate protein, and moderate fat, meaning that you keep proteins and meats and fats in there, but you just pull back on the amounts, but you definitely increase your plant matter. This is also what looks like, according to traditional Chinese medicine, more of a summer approach, because summer times are meant to be a little bit more light and fresh and easy, more plant matter, less calorically dense foods. And so that's kind of what that would mimic a little bit. All right, so take a picture of this, save it. These are just some experimentations you want to go through in the future. Understand that that's exactly how I'd look at all these. I'm always experimenting. Like, I'm never stagnant. I'm always changing things up and messing with things, and that's how I create the programs that I come up with, because I experiment on myself and other people, and it's just awesome. So, all right. Now, other things to consider is if you don't sleep enough, you're not going to lose fat. If you're sleeping 5 hours a night or something like that, like, it's almost impossible, because your hormones are all out of whack. Like, your cortisol levels are off during the day, and it's going to be impossible for your body to burn fat while in the presence of high cortisol levels. And the same thing applies for if you're exercising too much or if you're under too much stress. So again, the preface here is if you want to nitpick body composition. So for me, I exercise a lot. Like, I do a training session in the morning. I do another one in the afternoon on most days. I do have rest days built into it. But if I was going to sit here and complain about my body composition, the first place that I would need to look is going to be my doing too much intense activity. Also, if you're under a lot of stress on a regular basis, you have to understand that has an impact on your body composition, because, again, in the presence of abnormal hormonal levels and cortisol levels and stress patterns, it's going to be really hard for your body to release fat stores. And then if you have some of your lingering bad habits, that you need to have some honest conversations with yourself about, that would be a place to look. So for the longest time, I drank every night of the week, and I justified it, or I rationalized it, because my diet was spot on. My lifestyle factors were spot on. I'm a big guy. I'm like, I can take it. Like, this is my thing. This is how I unwind and how I relax. Well, as soon as I gave that up and started working on that, I had to shed at least 10, 15, or 20 pounds. I don't know. I didn't measure it, but I shrunk immediately. I went from having at least a bottle of wine a night to, like, doing no alcohol most nights, and feel amazing. My mental clarity, emotional stability, and all these other things changed, but then also my body composition changed, like, dramatically. So maybe your bad habit is alcohol. Maybe it's, having too much chocolate at night, or too many safe starches, or something along those lines. And you just need to have an honest, real conversation with yourself. And just like everything else, like, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't think, okay, I got to nix this for a lifetime. Do an experiment. Do like a 2-week experiment or a 1-week experiment of pulling back on amounts or completely eliminating something, and see how you look, feel, and perform. And that may be just the nudge that will move you into doing it for a little bit longer, a little bit more often, or something like that. Something else to consider is going to be making sure that you have a lot of constant low-level activity going on. So remember, we talked about being in a fight or flight or rest and digest state. A fight or flight state is basically being stressed out, and that includes being in a really intense workout session. So I think a lot of people falsely believe that if they're working out, they're burning fat, and that is not going to be true, because if you're stressed out, if you're busting your butt in a really hard, intense workout, it's impossible for you to burn fat, because your body is tapping into glycogen stores, and it's also tapping into a stress response. And so what we want to be active at a calm and relaxed state. And that includes walking, hiking, meditation, yoga, gardening, playing with the kids at the park, going on a walk, and things like that. All right. So ideally, an ideal fitness pyramid is going to look something like this. We have a huge base of being active all the time, all day, every day. I'm always on my feet. I rarely sit. I have a standing desk in my office. I'm always moving. I'm coaching classes. I'm working with people. I'm walking to and from things. And so I have a pretty high level of constant level of activity. But then we also always want to incorporate some intense resistance training so that we can build our muscles and strengthen our bones. And by the way, having some good solid lean muscle mass is going to be one of the best things you can do for your body composition, because you're going to be using energy and burning fat stores just while being at rest, the more muscle mass that you have. And then also we want to have a few days a week where we're doing some conditioning, like some metabolic conditioning. And in CrossFit, this is what we call a Metcon. Now, if you're doing CrossFit, like you're already doing strength training and conditioning, like it's all mixed into the programming. But this is just to give you an idea of how your fitness should look like on a weekly basis. Now, how do you measure your constant level of activity? Well, we recommend getting a pedometer, because a pedometer is going to show you how much activity you have on a daily basis, and it measures steps, but steps include just movement in general. So if I'm cleaning the house, vacuuming, gardening, playing with the kids, going on a walk, like it measures all that stuff. And so my goal would be to where I had about 10,000 plus steps per day. And if I had that, then I know that I'm staying active at a calm and relaxed pace most of the day. And so therefore, I'm doing everything that I can from a movement perspective to burn as much fat as I can, right? Now, if you get a pedometer and you wear it for a few days and you notice your steps are like 2,000 or 3,000 steps per day, I wouldn't shoot for 10,000 steps right off the bat. I would slowly increment that by parking further from entrances to buildings, taking the steps instead of taking the elevator, going for a walk in the morning, going for a walk in the evening, and things like that, all right? Now, another question we get at the end of every progression is like, what about supplementation? We're going to talk a little bit more at length about this in a separate presentation. I do feel that it's going to be beneficial to have some smart supplementation in the mix along with essential oils. So real food is the foundation of everything that we do. We need to be real food purists, because real food gives us the maximum nutrients. It gives us food synergy, meaning that nutrients work together in a way that we don't fully understand, but my body understands it for sure. And we also get a natural balance of nutrients. We don't ever run into toxicity issues of certain nutrients because it comes in the way that Mother Nature intended it for us, in the way that our body understands. Now, because of modernization, because the soil has been depleted, because the plants that we eat and the animals that we eat are just not the same nutritional content as they used to be, and also because most of us have grown up eating the wrong fats and don't have the right things to anti-inflame properly, I would say that there is an argument for some smart supplementation. So like a low-dose multi, and then also something to support your anti-inflammatory pathways. And then we use essential oils like they're going out of style. And I try not to talk about it too much because I don't want to seem too pushy or too salesy with it. But we love this stuff. I mean, I'm telling you, if you have anything that pops up from a symptomatic standpoint on a daily basis, whether it's a headache, a digestive issue, low energy levels, a mood shift, you can reach into your essential oil kit and just bust an oil out, or a combination of oils, and it will completely change everything. It's like our replacement for over-the-counter medications. It's awesome. So we only recommend a couple of different supplements. One of them is going to be a cod liver oil. We recommend this fermented cod liver oil that we sell called Green Pastures Infused Coconut Oil. It has fermented cod liver oil, skate liver oil, and high vitamin butter oil mixed into it. And it definitely has the things that we need to anti-inflame properly, but it also has very high levels of vitamin A and vitamin D and some other fat-soluble nutrients, and it is a superfood powerhouse. Dr. Weston A. Price, when he traveled the world looking for healthy populations, he noticed that a lot of them would consume fermented cod liver oil, and so this company, Green Pastures, learned how to mimic this process, this ancestral process of getting this oil out of fermented cod livers, and it's a superfood. It's not like a fish oil. There's another product that we're experimenting with that's also a cod liver oil that's traditionally prepared, and as soon as we have information on that, we'll put it out. So our favorite low-dose multi is going to be doTERRA's Vitality Pack, and you can purchase this if you're a wellness advocate with doTERRA, or if you just want to buy it from us, you can do that as well. And we feel amazing on this stuff. Like, it's got a food nutrient, low-dose nutrient. It's got an essential oil complex, and it's also got a cellular vitality complex, which has antioxidants and polyphenols, and it's just a really, really great combination of stuff. We love it. For the essential oils, if you're new to essential oils, we'd recommend getting a kit, and we'd start with the Home Essentials kit. Home Essentials kit has a lot of different oils that we use on a regular basis, and it also comes with a diffuser, and it's just awesome. We love it. So we're going to do a dedicated presentation on supplementation and essential oils, but to tie all that together, we'd recommend taking our daily infused coconut oil, the daily doTERRA Vitality Pack, some concentrates, and you can get that on Amazon, and then also having an essential oil kit, and then making sure that you're revamping your home and cleansing it properly using essential oils and some healthy alternatives. So One last thing I want to do is just make a plug for our superhuman priming process. It is where the deep work is. You know, you need to get up every single morning and think about what you want for your day and what you want for your life. The structure of the priming process with gratitude and meditating and envisioning is solid. It's proven. It's got a track record. There's a lot of people that use it. If you struggle with it in any way, just reach out, because I love to work with people on that stuff. All right. I know that was a lot of information for a closing presentation, but I just want to tell you that you're amazing and we love you, and we're here to support you. So every single one of you have a certificate that's been printed for you and that has been signed by me, and we'd love to give that to you. So if you haven't received that, make sure you stop by my office or make an appointment, and let us give you a big hug and welcome you into our family and our community, because we love you all. All right, thank you so much for listening.